Hi, Mike Kesselring here again. We're at the Dale and Sharon Travnicek Ranch. We have Dale here with us today. And one of the things that's fascinating me about Dale is that he's always around horses. I first met him when we were shoeing and trimming our horses' feet. And from there, I learned a lot about what he does and what Sharon and the family do down here. And they still feed a lot with horses during the winter. And I thought that was a fascinating story. Thought you folks might like to hear about it as well. Dale, what can you tell us about what you do in terms of horses, and when did you first get started with horses? Are you a mule man? Are you a
No,
horse man?
horseman. Uh,
Do you have you been around your whole life, and what is it in 2020 prompts you to still want to feed hay with horses in the wintertime?
it's the quiet and the beauty of seeing being with the horses, with the animals.
Sure.
There's something between humans and animals. There's a bond there that you can't replace with machines.
No, you can't.
How I got started when I was, I think 4 or 5 years old, there was still the remnants of teams in around Saunders County and Butler County and in eastern
And then, of course,
Nebraska area.
that's in Nebraska.
In Nebraska,
Yeah.
yes, around Wahoo and Colon. That's where I was first started. Was my dad had a farm at near Colon, Nebraska, and then he died when I was 17 months old, so I never
boy.
knew him. But anyway, I'd always thought, and I loved horses from the time I can remember. And my grandpa would always brag to people that I could spot a horse 2 miles away. And that made me feel real good. And then I remember in the early days, I wanted to farm with horses.
Did you?
Yes. And it was you might say, the last remnants of teams. You'd still see a few, but very few.
Sure.
And so I got in on it too late. And as I grew up, I'd always loved horses and worked with horses. And when we first got out on our own in 1973, I broke horses for 10 years.
Feeding hay in the winter with horses.
Uh-huh.
You have to admit that's a rarity.
Yes, it is.
And I have to believe in some ways you're almost made fun of for still doing that.
Probably that, but I don't hear about it.
No.
They don't come up to me and say you're stupid.
No. But on the other hand, you've certainly lived here longer than I have, but I've been here now for 23 years, and we can get some hellacious winter weather that it would take you more than a couple days just to dig snow out to get to them. And all while that's happening, you're hooked up, hitched up,
Right.
and feeding hay.
Yeah. Well, in this last winter, we've had one of the snowiest winters since the mid 80s.
Yes.
And if it wasn't for my team, there would have been a lot of struggles trying to get a tractor through those big snow drifts and trying to get it, because the wind had packed them so hard. There was several of those drifts. They'd be 4 or 5 feet high. The horses only sunk in about a foot.
Yeah, isn't that something?
And away they went, just right over
Yep.
the snowdrift.
Now, are you in the wagon forking hay, and the horses are just going on their own?
No, I feed small square bales.
Do you?
And those are idiot cubes, by the way.
Ain't the truth.
It is.
It's the only kind I know how to handle, if
But
that
you
tells
know-
you anything about my personality and intellectual ability.
I try to tell people when you pick up the bales, it's your summer fitness program.
There you go.
When you feed them, it's your winter fitness program.
Perfect. Chopping wood.
But
I
I-
got the same story from my grandpa about chopping wood.
Right. But anyway, I don't get anybody to believe that. They
No.
just don't buy into
No.
it. But what I do, well, what I have done, I took an old baler axle and moved the tongue to the center, and then I took a big, like a 4x8 sheet of plywood and
Sure.
fastened that to the axle and the tongue so I could stand on it, and then I could feed bales, load the bales on that cart. And it's only about 18 inches off the ground, so it's not hard
Right.
to
Right.
to load the bales and load them by hand. And sometimes if I have to make 2 or 3 trips, why, it's just say if I feed 30 bales to 60 cows, I'll make 3 trips of 10. But it's not all that hard once you get going and get started before you know it. And another thing I really like about it is you're right at ground level and eye level with the cows.
Yeah.
And that really gentles them down.
Sure.
And it pays off during calving season, because since I've been feeding with the team and at ground level, eye level, I haven't had a cow blow snot at me when I went to tag their calf.
Now, for folks watching, snot blowing is when the cow is less than pleased with what you're doing. And,
That's right. I guess
There's
that's-
no clinics involved. In fact, all of us as farm kids learned how to do the one finger nose blow, but that's for another show.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to you.
When I was in the Air Force and stationed at Altus Air Force Base in Oklahoma, I got acquainted with a horseshoer that did it for a living. He was 56 years old at the time when I met him, and I met him in the coffee shop in this little town of Blair where we lived in. And I asked him if I could go with him and just watch. And so he took me with him every Saturday, and he'd usually have a schedule made up ahead of time, so that he'd have like 4 or 5 horses to shoe or trim. And we'd go from place to place and just visit and talk about balance and shaping the shoe and different
Sure.
things like that. And and then finally, he didn't let me nail any shoes on, but he let me trim. And he told me how he learned. He said, you just start shaping the shoe and work on it, and make sure that you don't get the nail in the wrong way to quick the horse. And so when I got out of the service, I sent off and bought the Army manual. And it just was a little like a 7x9 booklet, maybe 20 or 25 pages in it. And it was from back when the Army had cavalry horses. It was, I don't remember what the printing date was.
Well, you know, Fort Robinson was the largest remount station that the U.S. Army had,
Right.
which is right here, also in northwest
Yes.
Nebraska.
But it stressed balance and showed pictures and drawings of what to do if a horse, the front feet splay out or turn in, and just how to trim them. One side a little bit shorter than the other so they'll stand straight. And it just all kind of fit together and made sense, and I went from there.
Great.
And it just kind of to build up, and to where I did it for a living I was doing it for, I think, 45 years, something between 40 and 45 years before.
Sure. Now, also a big part of the operation is the family, and one is grandson Dane. And Dane, I was going to ask you, how old are you, my friend?
I'm 14.
14.
Yes, sir.
So when a lot of guys are playing video games and running around town and jumping in the swimming pool,
That's right.
you're out here working with Grandpa and horses. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I see it as a good thing, because staring at video games all day just doesn't teach you nothing.
Turned your mind to mush. Which explains a lot about what's going on today, I guess, doesn't it?
That's right.
But having said that, what can you tell us about what you like about the harnessing and working with horses?
Well, like he said earlier, I just enjoy being with the horses and what kind of peace they bring to you. And, you know, if you have like a bad day or a bad start of the day, they just know how to calm you down.
Level you right out.
That's I do.
Level you right out.
Very much so.
That's right.
Help you kind of keep things in perspective.
That's right.
Yeah. And also, one of the things that I've learned over my lifetime working with animals, they really don't care how you feel as long as you're working with them. And come hell or high water, we got to get the job done. And they will help you, as they have with people for thousands of years. And I'm so tickled you guys and your family, and particularly you, Dane, at 14, are learning how to do that and carry that tradition on. I'm sure there has to be some continuity feelings in yourself about passing this from one generation to the next.
I just feel like the next generation needs to know more about animals and video games and what to do in town.
Well, I applaud you for your efforts, sir, and I'm glad you're here in Sioux County with us.
Yes, sir.
Say, I want to thank Dale and his family, Sharon, and their kids that are here helping us out in Sioux County, learning how to preserve what's special about ranching in terms of shoeing, harnessing, and feeding with horses. It may soon be gone, and the fact that we have people like the Travnicek family that are putting that effort forward, I think has something to pass through for all of us in terms of patience, spirituality, and working with horses in nature. And we thank them for it. Thank you very much, and we'll see you down the trail again.